It's the middle of the night and you're sound asleep in your warm and cozy bed. Everything is normal until you are awakened to a bright light shining through your window. Maybe the headlights of a vehicle? Or perhaps something more sinister. Your attention is suddenly drawn to your bedroom door as it slowly and mysteriously creaks open. At this moment, you realize your body is frozen. You can't even speak or shout out for help. Whatever is about to walk through that door wants you to stay right there against your will. As you lie there in complete terror, you can't help but realize how real this all feels. Like it's more than just a dream. Your heart races as 3 unknown entities slowly glide into your room. These beings resemble everything you ever imagined an extraterrestrial to look like. They are extremely tall and thin, their eyes are large and almond-shaped, their arms dangling past their knees. These beings stare at you from the foot of your bed. As you attempt to cry out, your body begins to float up towards your ceiling. You're completely hopeless and under the will of these unknown visitors. That's all you can remember when you wake up in the morning. It was all so real, or at least it seemed to be. It felt like more than a dream. The next few nights you stay awake as long as you can while watching funny, lighthearted movies, trying to forget the fact that you are far too scared to lie in that bed, not knowing what presence might join you again. Could this be a legitimate visit by beings from another world? If so, what would they want from you? Or could it be something else? Something a bit more believable, but equally unsettling?
So after the incident where I had seen them looking at me from beside my bed, I drew up this illustration of what they looked like. Like I said, they look like very angry. They're obviously grays by the color of their skin and the shapes of their bodies. And yeah, I drew this up from what I saw from the second encounter.
My name is Jen Manderscheid. I am Emily Manderscheid's mom. And I started listening to some of Emily's stories back when she was about, I think they started around 15 or 16 years old. And she kind of, at first they were just stories kind of around the campfire, and she would tell us that she felt like these aliens came to visit her, and these gray, tall alien forms would be kind of hovering over her in her bed. And we kind of didn't think too much of it at the time, maybe thought it was a fear or too many. But then we started paying attention because it was kind of a recurring conversation. And so Darren and I both thought that, maybe there is something to this.
My name is Emily Manderscheid. I am a tattoo artist out of Fort Saskatchewan, and I'm 20 years old. I was never really interested in unsolved mysteries or aliens or anything like that until I had experienced some really strange things in October of 2013. So the first was probably the most violent. I had woken up in my bed feeling completely normal and I wasn't able to move. After I had felt that initial panic, I began to try to move, and it was possible, it was just very difficult. I remember being able to get my knees up to my chest and roll over onto my side and get my feet onto the ground. And I remember being able to feel like the cold floorboards underneath my feet. After that had happened, I remember seeing a bright light coming through my bedroom window, and I snapped back into bed. And like you could feel everything, like you could feel like some sort of force just like pushing you back into that stationary position that I had been in. And everything began to like buzz and vibrate, and I could see my bedroom door swing open and 3 tall black silhouettes kind of floated into my room. After that, my jaw had stretched open. Everything was still buzzing and vibrating, and I began to get lifted up towards my ceiling. After that, I remember fighting it really, really hard, because the first thing that came to my mind, obviously, was I'm getting abducted by aliens. Like, it was the only thing that made sense to me at that moment. And after I'd gotten lifted up towards my ceiling, I remember my nose touching my ceiling. I got snapped back into bed, and that's where I woke up. After I'd woken up, I felt extremely nauseous, and I ran to my bathroom, threw up. I had bruises all over my legs, all over my thighs and inner thighs. And that was that for the first experience. I had no idea what to think other than just Google whatever could be possible. And what I ended up Googling was sleep paralysis. That was the only logical thing that made sense to me.
So this is the room where all 3 incidents happened. The first being the most violent. It started just laying flat down on my back in my bed, and I got levitated towards the ceiling. And then that's when you could see them coming through the door. When I had seen them come into my room, the door had just swung open, and they all just like stood here at the foot of my bed.
Can you show me how high to the ceiling their heads were?
Their heads were about like here. They were tall. However, they were like levitating, like I want to say just like this far off the ground. And their arms like went down past their knees. Like I don't know why, that's just like creepy to me.
It's really creepy.
There was light coming through this window. And then that's when I had just snapped back into bed.
Sleep paralysis is a term given to the occurrence of being aware and conscious of one's surroundings, but are unable to move or speak as you are about to fall asleep or wake up. When you enter REM sleep, your muscles go into a paralyzed mode. This mechanism is called atonia. It's an incredible protection system for the body, keeping your movements from injuring yourself. During sleep paralysis, your mind awakes to a degree, but your body remains in the paralyzed state. It is common during sleep paralysis to fall victim to terrifying hallucinations, many of which involve seeing or hearing other beings and strange entities around you. This experience usually causes feelings of extreme fear to develop. Is sleep paralysis really just a bizarre phenomenon of our minds in the dream world? Or could it be the opening of a window into a different and alternate world? There's no way to know for sure, but the possibility still stands that Emily Manderscheid was indeed being visited by extraterrestrial beings. You can decide for yourself.
And so, you know, we kind of talked to her a little bit more, and she would tell us every time she told a story, there was a little bit more detail. It's like she was remembering over time. Like, I think at first, I don't know whether she was afraid to, or to give the details, that she thought that, you know, maybe we thought she was way out there in left field. But we listened. We're her parents, and we love her, and it was kind of fascinating to hear some of these things. So it got us all thinking about what really is out there, and are people watching us, or maybe not people, but other beings, so to speak. So that was kind of the beginning of it. There were times over the years and over the past that we kind of made little jokes and fun at her about it, and sometimes she was impressed and she laughed with us, and sometimes she didn't. She got upset and started crying. And I remember sometimes, you know, I would be sleeping and her vent is directly over the spare bedroom, which is right next to our bedroom, and I would hear her crying in the middle of the night and kind of like whimpering and whatever, and I'd go down and I'd check on her, and she said that she was fine or whatever. But so I don't know what was actually going on. I never witnessed any of it, but I certainly thought that there was something to it. So yeah.
So my second experience with sleep paralysis wasn't as violent, but it was extremely disturbing. I was laying in bed on my side, and my blanket lifted up above me and started rotating above me. I could see between my blanket and my mattress a face. And this face was white, gray. It had these like huge, just black eyes, like just deep, deep black eyes. Like if you've ever looking at like a great white shark's eyes, like that's what it looks like. And I could feel it breathing on me and touching me. And that was about it for the second experience.
They had just lifted my blanket up off the bed. They rotated it, and the gray was standing here. Like this, and I could see his face, and he was breathing on me and touching me under the blanket.
So you don't know what he was doing? He was just...
like examining me, or just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like they're really interested in my sleeping for some reason, because like I said, like all of these things happen in my sleep. Like I feel like maybe that's just because I'm more vulnerable when I'm sleeping, but yeah.
My third experience was extremely vague. It almost felt more so like a lucid dream. It wasn't as real as the first two. I just, like I said, vaguely remember getting thrown across my room and into my standing mirror. I remember laying on my side and then waking up in bed.
That was when I got thrown across my room. So I was literally laying down in my bed, and I vaguely remember this, like I said, but I remember getting thrown across my room into that mirror and lying on the ground. Like when I woke up, I was back in my bed, of course. But...
I kind of had my own experience when I was younger. I was probably about 8 years old, and we lived in southwestern Ontario, and we lived in an old abandoned farmhouse that my dad had renovated and fixed up, and I was walking out in the field. We had cornfields and soybean fields that surrounded the house, and probably wheat and a couple of other crops or whatever. But anyways, I was out the field right directly back of our house, and I saw like the wheat field was groomed in this perfect circle, like a crop circle almost. And it was so perfectly groomed, like there was no way any animal could have done it. My dad, of course, I went running back to my dad and got my dad to come and look at it. And he's like, oh no, like a deer probably laid there or something. And I'm like, there's no way. The way it was so perfectly groomed out into a perfect circle that it was any kind of animal. And I always, ever since then, like growing up there until we left and moved to Alberta, I always had a bit of a sense that there was more out there than what I think we know or believe.
I was out here having a cigarette, and just in the sky towards Bonnecourt over there, you could see 3 saucer-shaped lights. They were kind of moving in a wavy kind of direction. They would light up for 3 seconds, die down for 2, light up for 3. Needless to say, I didn't sleep that night, kind of knowing that something would happen to me in my sleep again. No, there was no sound. It was really eerie, if anything. They were just so... they were like almost like graceful, but you knew that they had different intentions.
As time went on, it was just becoming something that, like, it was just a scary story to tell. But I still remember that initial shock and that initial fear that I had that first experience, and that's something that still always pulls me back. The emotions that I felt, and that's the only thing that I have to my name, honestly, is just what I felt that day and that night. I think anybody would kind of want to believe that it was, sleep paralysis, or there was something that you could explain easily. So I do stand behind that just a little bit, but like I said, that feeling I had that night was just insane. I absolutely think that sleep paralysis could be a tool that the aliens use. That sounds so ridiculous. But it does. It seems like it was a tool, because I have experienced sleep paralysis, but the initial time that I experienced it, I hallucinated like most people do, but I also experienced physical things with that, so that makes it hard for me to just say that it was just a dream. And when I experience sleep paralysis now, like I said, it's very small and insignificant, but every time it does, it still shocks me to the point I'm like, I always feel paranoid after, because I don't know if, you know, that's just all in my head or if they're trying to come after me again.
So could it be possible that Emily was indeed in contact with extraterrestrials? Or was it simply just a case of sleep paralysis, with her mind working against her? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and if you'd like to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. There's plenty of mysteries out there to explore.